All right, students. So now we're going to do 1.4. So again, we go to classwork and go down to daily work, all the way down to 1.4. And we can look at this assignment that is 1.4 is BLAST. So here's what we're doing here. So we're going to start first by reading the paragraph and answering the questions at the end. So again, what I'm going to recommend for you is if you are just starting off, if you just started school here at SFI, I am not expecting that you're going to speak a whole lot of English just now. So if you want to translate things, that's always fine. Again, so go to Tools, Translate Document, and you can translate the document to another language. If you want to translate to Arabic, if you want to translate to Chinese, if you want to translate to Spanish, that's totally fine. You are welcome to do it in whatever language you want to. Okay. And if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, if you are somebody who you feel a little confident with your English and you want to push yourself a little bit more, this is what I recommend for you. So first, I want you to read the paragraph, and I want you to just make sure that you understand the words. Circle any words that you do not know. So when you're reading, maybe you don't know what the word unique means, unique. And so you can circle the word unique, find the translation, and then translate the word and put it on top of the word unique. This is going to help you then focus just on the words you don't know, and you can then continue with what you have. Then you want to read the question. So read the question. You can translate the question if you want to. And then I want you to find the answer with it. Read the text one more time, and I want you to find the answer, and you can highlight it with a highlighter, or you can underline it. So let's go through this together. So just like humans, pathogens have their own unique DNA. When medical professionals are not certain what disease a patient has, a nurse can take a sample of the patient's blood or saliva. Lab technicians can analyze the patient's sample and determine the DNA sequence of the pathogen. Then, bioinformaticians use a tool called the Basic Local Alignment Search Tool, also called BLAST, to find the identity of the pathogen. So again, first thing I would do is circle the words that you do not know in English, write the translation on top. The question that it's asking us is this: how can doctors identify the disease that a patient has? So, right, we know that we have patients. We have just learned about the 7 different patients that we have, and we learned the differences between bacteria and viruses. So the thing that we're trying to do now is to say, so how do we then know like what bacteria or what virus somebody has? So what we were when we were learning about DNA, right, we learned that DNA is something that is unique, something that everything that has DNA has different DNA from other things. So viruses have unique DNA, bacteria have unique DNA, we have unique DNA. Every single one of us has different DNA. Because that DNA is unique, we know who that DNA belongs to, right? So if you have a DNA sample of me, only my DNA will match with my DNA. Nobody else has the same DNA that I do because my DNA is unique. So since we know that it's unique, if we search for my DNA, only I will come up. Nobody else will have the same DNA, so they will know that that is me. The same goes with a pathogen. Pathogens, again, these are bacteria or viruses. If I take a sample of a patient, so when you go to the doctor, they take some saliva or they take some blood. What they can do then is the pathogen that is inside of your body, the thing that's making you sick, will also be in your blood and your saliva. So then they take that pathogen and they find the DNA of that pathogen, of the bacteria or the virus. They use this tool called BLAST. That tool is going to help us then identify what the thing inside of us is. So let's talk about so how can we identify what the patient has? Well, we can use the BLAST. We can use the tool called BLAST. So first we take the sample of the patient's blood or saliva. So I would highlight this. We take a sample of the patient's blood or saliva. We can analyze and determine the DNA sequence. And then we can use BLAST to identify the pathogen. So you don't have to have the same exact answer. Your answer may be a little bit different, but that is what I would say. So if you want to know what disease a patient has, we take a sample of the patient, so blood, saliva, sometimes mucus. We analyze the sample and we find the DNA sequence of the pathogen, and then we take that DNA sequence and we look for it in BLAST. We use this tool called BLAST to find what it is. So let's talk about the steps. So what's happening here? So first, what's the first thing that happens? Well, first, it says a nurse will take a sample of a patient's blood or saliva. So first, a nurse takes a sample of the patient's blood or saliva. So that's what I would write here. Again, you can write, I have left space for you here to write your answer in your home language if you want to. You can also write the answer here in your home language if you want to as well. So first, the nurse takes a sample of the patient's blood or saliva. That's the first thing that happens. What happens next? So next, right? Next, it says lab technicians. So a lab technician is going to analyze the patient's sample and find what the DNA sequence is. Is going to analyze the sample to determine the DNA. So we're going to take that sample. We're going to analyze the sample and find what the DNA is. And then at the end, we have a professional called a bioinformatician. So bio means life, informatician, information. So information about the thing that is inside of you. So what's happening now is that a bioinformatician is going to find the identity of the pathogen using BLAST. So those are the 3 steps. So first, a nurse takes a sample of the patient's blood or saliva. Next, a lab technician is going to analyze the sample to determine the pathogen's DNA sequence. And then a bioinformatician is going to analyze the sample, or is going to, find the identity of the pathogen using BLAST. Great. So again, all of the people that we have, all of our patients here, right? Our patients here are all sick. These are all people that we learned about. We have these samples of their DNA. So it says more students are showing up at the Student Health Center. Time is running out and it is up to you to determine what is causing this outbreak on campus. In this activity, you explore the process of DNA sequencing, process and analyze DNA sequence data for the pathogen causing the students to feel sick, and use your additional research and lab data to make a diagnosis. So we have these patients. We took a patient sample, so we took blood or saliva, and we found the DNA of the pathogen inside of the patient. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that information and we're going to use BLAST to find what that pathogen is. So if you click here on the BLAST link, this is going to take you to a website where you can actually look for what the pathogen is. You're going to click here, nucleotide BLAST. Here you're going to put in the sequence of DNA. So you come back here, you can copy this sequence here. I would recommend you do this on your computer. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this here. Then I'm going to go down. So this is the DNA sequence, and I'm going to click BLAST. So this is a library of all the different things that scientists have found the DNA of different organisms, and it will tell us what organism it is most similar to, or what pathogen it is more similar to. So here we find this first answer, Neisseria meningitidis. This is the pathogen. This is the thing that is making this is the thing that is making Sue sick. So I'm going to put this here. That is the pathogen that is affecting Sue. What about Jill? Let's try Jill now. So we come back here. Come back here. And let's see. So we're going to go edit search. We're going to do a new search. Now we're going to change and we're going to use the DNA that we found from the sample with Jill. We'll change this. We'll put in the new code. Click BLAST. And let's see what we have. What is our result? It looks like it's the same disease. It's the same pathogen, Neisseria meningitidis. Okay, let's continue. Let's find what Anthony has. So we copy this, come back over here, edit search, delete this and put in the new code. And let's see what Anthony has. So if we look here, it looks like it's the influenza B virus. So I'm going to put influenza B virus. That is what Anthony has. Influenza B virus. What about Wanda? Let's look at Wanda. Copy this. I'm going to then go back up, edit search again, put in the new code, and click BLAST. And the first thing it is showing, right, we have Neisseria meningitidis again. So they have this person has the same disease. Wanda has the same disease, or the same pathogen as Jill and Sue. Then let's go to Maggie. What does Maggie have? So we'll copy Maggie's DNA, the pathogen in Maggie, the DNA of the pathogen. Paste it here. BLAST. And it looks like Maggie has Streptococcus pyogenes. Again, I am not expecting that you know what these things are. I just want you to go over and copy them here so that you understand This is the thing. This is the thing that is causing these people to be sick. And we got this information from the sample that we took from them. All right, let's check for Maria now. Edit this search. Now for Maria, quick blast. Maria also has Neisseria meningitidis. And again, these people are all friends with each other, right? So we know that they are not all of them, but most of them are friends with each other. So it's not too surprising that, they all are connected, that they might have the same disease, right? If you get a disease, usually it's from somebody that you spend time with. Let's check Arnie then. What about Arnie? With Arnie, if we then blast for this, what we find is he has influenza B. So we'll copy this, influenza B virus. Great. And so here are the diseases that we found. So Sue, Jill, Wanda, and Maria all have Neisseria meningitidis. They have this pathogen. Anthony and Arnie both have influenza. And Maggie has something else. She's a little bit different than everybody else. So this is the actual thing that is making them sick. Let's see what what is the disease that they cause. So let's copy this and look for so we can close this now. So let's see, disease caused by, and I'll place this here. It is meningococcal disease. So maybe you know what meningococcal disease is, maybe you do not. But it is basically an illness where, so if you look here, it is from a bacteria, and it is something that can cause an infection of the brain and the spinal cord. So that means that this is something that can affect your brain. It's actually it can be very serious if you do not treat it quickly. But I'm going to put here meningococcal disease. Again, I don't expect that you know how to pronounce these things. This is just for you to see what this is. So if you have this pathogen, this is the disease that you have. This is going to be the same, right? If they have the same pathogen, they're going to have the same disease. That means that Wanda will also have this meningococcal disease also for Maria. What about influenza B virus? So if I look up influenza B virus, so influenza B virus is the flu. We call that, so influenza or the flu. So the flu, you have probably gotten this before. The flu is something that we usually get like every year. There's a vaccine that you can get every year from the doctors, but influenza is something, right? It's not a very serious disease. Usually you get sick for a few days and then you feel better, but it's called the flu. You can call it the full name influenza, or you can just call it the flu. In the US, we just call it the flu, right? Just because it's FLU and because we are lazy. So that means that Arnie also has the flu. What about Maggie? She has Streptococcus pyogenes. So I'll look over here. What is the disease caused by Streptococcus pyogenes? So let's see. The diseases that are caused, we can look down here. What diseases are caused? Well, we have scarlet fever, bacteriemia, pneumonia. So any of these are fine. I'm going to go with pneumonia. It's not very serious, but because we're going to focus on the one that is the most common. But I'm going to put here pneumonia. If you don't know what pneumonia is, so this is basically and also this can also cause what's called, we looked at this before. This is what's called, we call this when these are your tonsils. So when your tonsils become inflamed with bacteria, that is what we call strep throat. So it can be pneumonia, it can be strep throat, it can be a lot of different things. In this case, I think it is pneumonia. But it's not super important because we're going to focus on these four people since they have the disease that is the most common and the most serious. This is the most serious of the diseases. Pneumonia is also serious, but it's not quite as urgent as these because these affect your brain. So that means that these are the most serious. Anyway, so with BLAST now, what we have now figured out, we now know the identity of the pathogen that is affecting each of these people. We know why they are sick. Now we're going to look at some more information of saying, how can we then figure out who was the first person to get sick and who caused then other people to get sick? But let's finish here. All right, I'll see you soon.